So we're going to look at Ujima. I keep promising that we are. But I also want to say, you're not the first liberatory economic practice to walk this world, right? So I wanted to just offer two examples. Historically, right? We're not in something new. And in fact, a lot of what we're all aiming for is a restoration of things that came before.
Yes.
And again, to go back to Edgar Villanueva, this notion that decolonizing and liberatory economic practice begins with embracing an indigenous worldview, which is work that he has drawn from the Indigenous Corporate Training Group. But these two worldviews that he shows, I think, are super helpful in illuminating the shift that we're talking about. And they're also not unrelated to conversations we've had previously around the economics of separation, right? Which is from supremacist culture, which is a Western worldview in this slide from Edgar, and the economics of relationship, which comes from this liberatory path, this sense of mutuality, and also an indigenous worldview that it's aligned with. So the basis of belief, this scientific belief, proof, at the center, as opposed to a spiritual belief at the center that is underneath everything, right? The truth, there is only one truth, and it's a scientific one, and it's a Western one, or what some folks, Penn Low in his Solidarity Economics class teaches as one world thinking, one world, versus this multiple world, many truths. Truths are dependent upon all of us in the collective having our individual experiences. The relatedness, so compartmentalization, the separation that's endemic to this form of thinking versus the interrelatedness, the interbeing of our communities. Land is not something to own, but in the Western worldview, the notion that it is there for us to plunder and take, the taking, and in the indigenous worldview, the sacredness, and it is a giving nature, not a taking. Time, linear, and always urgent, I'll add that, versus time that is nonlinear and cyclical, with seasons at the heart of it, because it's a biomimetic, a natural system in the indigenous worldview. Your comfort comes from what you achieve, own, and hoard, right? As opposed to comfort is, again, our relatedness. Humans at the center, humans not at the center. I think that answers everything right there for me. And then, of course, wealth is for personal gain and also security and comfort, versus wealth is for all of us. It's to flow through us all. So what I take is sort of just the relatedness, the mutuality, and that interdependence and interbeing at the center. Again, as a liberatory economic practitioner, what resonates for you?
I think the primary thing here is that this is an indigenous worldview. So I want to take us back to our previous conversation when we talked about economic legacy, and also mark this as an inspiring legacy. And so I actually do appreciate you bringing in this work, because as you said, what we are doing is not remarkably new. What we are, and as you said, it's a restoration, it's an excavation. What we are doing has been buried as a result of aims to acquire supremacist power. So I think it's also important that as we look back, we also recognize that there are great things when we look back as well. So this is a part of our economic legacy.
Thank you for that, Nia. That's really at the heart of it. So I'm going to offer a second one, which is, again, from many places, right? So Mahatma Gandhi and trusteeship was his language for this. The notion of trusteeship is about not being owners of anything, right? Nature doesn't work with ownership. He saw us as guardians or trustees that are stewarding resources that are part of a commons. And that commons is human beings and all life on the planet. And as a result, we don't have a right to hoard things or to mindlessly throw them away. And so in this quote, which I'll read out loud, he says, "Supposing I have come by a fair amount of wealth, either by way of legacy or by means of trade and industry, I must know that all that wealth does not belong to me. What belongs to me is the right to an honorable livelihood, no better than that enjoyed by millions of others, The rest of my wealth belongs to the community and must be used for the welfare of the community. And I think what he's getting at there is a concern for the well-being of the self. The individual has to have the right to an honorable livelihood and no more. Mm-hmm. And the rest is all of ours. Mm-hmm. And again, that sense of liberatory practice here.
Yeah. And just a little bit of fun trivia for me, just with regards to this quote and Mahatma Gandhi. I think a bunch of people know Martin Luther King Jr. was heavily influenced by Mahatma Gandhi, and King actually talks about this part of the work as well in his autobiography. So he not only does he talk about nonviolence, he also talks about Gandhi's sense of trusteeship and the movement that was happening in India at the time, to have conversations with landowners about returning the land back to wider community. And it was actually how I was introduced. It was through King. How I was introduced to that concept. And so again, just thinking of legacy, buried history, in Black communities in particular, we'll talk about this later, but a rich cooperative history. W.E.B. Du Bois was interested in cooperatives, for example. So again, just appreciating this quote.
Yeah, I also appreciate you bringing forward legacy. We talked about the economic legacy as the bad one.
Right.
And here's this rich economic legacy, the good one,
right.
the one that we're
exactly.
claiming anyway, right? So.
Right.
And so that brings us to our third example, which is the Boston Ujima Project. So Nia's gonna say a lot about it, but first we want you to watch a video.